G'day, thanks very much. Thanks, Steve Torso, again for the invite coming along here. I'm actually promoting today an early stage sovereign Australian defence fund. When you research this stuff, you see a lot of information. People talk about differentiated asset classes. We have the most differentiated fund in Australia. We invest in sovereign Australian businesses who increase capability in lethality and survivability. So lethality is the things that you actually use to stop the bad person. We invest in companies that sell to defence forces. That's our role. So we're moving to quite an unstable geopolitical environment, and as a result, unfortunately, we need a lot of these articles. We are one of the only funds that was actually types of funds or types of investments that was left unscathed by that recent federal budget. So we actually have a very tax-effective fund, which includes tax credits and capital gains tax-free. I can read the disclaimer if you want. I'm not going to do that. We play into a global allied market. So there's roughly 33 countries that we can sell defence goods to without being arrested as a gun runner. That is worth $1.9 trillion US. When I started this in 2023, that was worth $1.2 trillion. See, that's worth $1.7 trillion at the moment. It goes to $1.9 trillion in a couple of years. The uplift in that period of time has been in technology and new technology acquisition. 80% of that uplift. So there's no new bases in there. There's very few new ships. There's almost no new people. It's all going towards technology and the technology change out. So it's a great spot to be in. We invest in Australian businesses for the most part who sell to the US Department of War. The Australian defence budget in US dollar terms is $38 billion. The US defence budget is $1 trillion US, and they've just made a request for $1.5 trillion. That will take the US to defence spending of roughly 5% of GDP. During the peacetime years of the Cold War, they were spending 6.2% of GDP on defence. So there's still a lot of capital to come yet. The reason we sell to the US instead of Australia, predominantly we invest in companies that sell to the US instead of Australia, is the Australian Defence Force is a terrible customer, a terrible supplier. A, they're broke, and B, they're hopeless. Now, I'm a former soldier. If they wanted me to carry a rifle again, I'd do it. But that doesn't detract from the fact that they're not very good at buying stuff. So the massive opportunity in this space around awesome capability developed in Australia, and we take that, we pick it up, and we put it into the US market. Once again, if you get a lot of these things, you hear about things like differentiated sort of investments and unique access. We have unique access. I'll show you in a later slide how in the last 2 and a bit years, we've come across almost 1,000 opportunities that touch our mandate in this space. So we've uncovered quite a bit. We've only invested in 6 of those. I'm going to talk about the 7th. We've done a 7th one, which is a stealth one at the moment. So we definitely have really pulled apart that market. We are a tax advantage fund. Get your own tax advice. However, the ESVCLP scheme is very well understood. It's generally 10% tax credit on the way in, capital gains tax free on the way out, and was actually made better by the recent federal budget. So there was a winner in that. There was actually one sole winner from that budget in Australia. And if you're looking for portfolio diversification, you can't get more diversified than a differentiated asset class with unique access to opportunities. Defence is it. My background is I'm an investor, typically early stage software businesses. I used to have someone talk about this slide because I don't really like talking about myself, and I'm not going to. I've built a great team. So I've been doing this business now for 3 years. We have been fully staffed for 2 years. So I have an investment manager and a investment director, Alexandra and Max respectively. They run the deal team. We have Sean, our venture partner in the US. We're a US market entry business. We basically take business from Australia and we get them successful in the US. A US growing game is quite important. So I have Peter Ellis, my GM, because I love investing in businesses, but I hate running them. So Peter runs my business for me. And Jake's our deal scout. So Jake races around Australia, finds all the opportunity, turns over all the rocks, and fills up the pipeline for our deal team. That's why we have almost 1,000 opportunities we've turned over in the last period of time. When we look at how we're going to actually allocate, so we're looking to raise a fund of up to $60 million. We're at $20 million, so we're a while away yet. We're not going to get there. We do close this fund in 3 weeks. So, and we'll get a bit more of that at the back end. But essentially in defence, you actually have 5 domains of defence. You have sea, air, land, and you have space and cyber. On top of that, then we have the various investment stages. So we look at a very wide portfolio approach inside that defence defence first thesis. And we've already made 6 investments we can talk about today. We're not fly-by-nights. We're not people who keep things in spreadsheets and bits of paper and whiteboards. We have an extensive database. As a result, we can produce you almost any information you like on the Australian early-stage defence sector. So we've come across 948, not 58, just a bit under 1,000 deals worth, cumulatively, if you were to invest at their face value of the investment, a bit under $600 million. So there's a lot out there. One of the biggest questions I get is there enough to invest in? And I look at people and think to myself, how must have Rick Baker and Nicky Shavac felt back in 2013 when they were raising Blackbird Fund 1, and they looked out and they saw Canva, they saw Safety Culture and all these other businesses and thought, are we mad? Why is nobody investing in this? Right now, there is so much low-hanging fruit in the sector because it is irrationally unloved. My job as an investor is actually really easy. I buy low and then I sell high. A lot happens in between those two things. What we're looking for in Australia is irrationally unloved assets. You won't find any more irrationally unloved asset than a defence asset that is used by soldiers, hopefully never get used by soldier sales and airmen. So we back the things that prosecute the government's case for peace. Once again, when we get into this market here, whilst we talk a lot about defence, it's a wide and varied area. This is a slide to say, hey, we know everything about a space. We're seeing a lot of things, for example, in counter-UAS, electronic warfare, sensors. I'll go through some of our portfolio because this is this time is really clicking down. I won't deal with the first two. I'll deal with the third one. It's a quantum business called Detect. That's actually a company looking to put a quantum sensing effect onto a silicon chip. So you can carry around quantum sensors in one of these things, which will be quite revolutionary. That's for about GPS denied environments. So if you're familiar with the war in Europe at the moment, the Russians have effectively turned off GPS for the Ukrainians. As a result, they can't rely on it, and you need a GPS denied service. Tiberius Aerospace, it's a business that makes a long-range artillery shell. So take an artillery shell and it goes from 30 kilometres out to 150 kilometres. So it's quite an effective business. Zendia is a space business that gives the operators of a spacecraft the ability to issue their staff driver's license for that spacecraft. So it's a training platform for people to operate spacecraft. Space is 85% militarised. And Zero Mark is a counter-UAS, counter-drone system that allows a soldier with a few sights and attachments to a weapon to engage a drone at range at hundreds of metres with a first or second shot accuracy. They've just won a massive US contract. The reason I didn't do the other two is we've actually had some recent success. So the first business we invested in is a business called HEO. They're about to complete a Series B round led by a large unnamed Australian sovereign wealth fund. That'll give us a 2.6x uplift on that part of the investment. And Arceus, which is a sensing business, and they've recently done a round with a variety of US and European investors as well as QIC, giving them a 2.8x uplift. This currently sees our fund at 1.2 TVPI, so total value versus paid in. So we've got a 20% uplift on that. And once the second investment, HEO, completes, it will be a 1.7x uplift. So if you invest today, you get somewhere between a 40 and 70% uplift on your funds day one. This fund closes on August 17th. So that's some great progress. To wrap it all up, we have amazing sector capability. We've built a team. We haven't been waiting. We've got an amazing team to pull in all sorts of capability in this sector. We've de-risked this. We've seen almost 1,000 investments. We've invested in 7. We've done one other business in the seismic sensing space. We're not allowed to talk about them. That should release in the next couple of weeks. And we're exceptionally tax effective. So if you're not aware of the ESVCLP scheme, it is the only tax effective investment scheme left in Australia. There's lots of funds out there who do this. We're merely one of those. We're an unconditional, which is very important to ask, unconditionally registered ESVCLP scheme. And that's me. I've got 42 seconds to spare. Thank you very much. Do we do questions? This is a keynote. Have we got time? Where's an organiser? Got a couple of minutes. There you go. What's the tax incentive? Ask your tax agent. So a 10% tax credit on drawn down capital and capital gains tax free up to a point, up to $250 million worth of exit value at exit. I am going to give tax advice. I recommend you look it up.
To what extent are Australian companies in this space disadvantaged by Trump's
So the US Department of War, or the now Department of War, have always had an imperative that you actually will create anything they buy in bulk. You'll need to create in the US. That's always been the case. Even the latest US government. I think it's a very sensible policy. I think Australia should make more of its stuff here as well. So part of our mandate is sovereign. Part of that sovereignty is all about is not made in Australia. If you do made in Australian defence, you will fail. Because most nations expect them to have some sort of sovereign resiliency, i.e. they make it in their country. So we've played into that, we understand that.
Stephen, what's the minimum investment?
Minimum
Don't tell me it's 1 billion.
Minimum investment is $350,000. We've currently deployed around 60% of capital, so your day one commitment will be 60% of whatever you commit. 60% of 300,000, which would be 6 times whatever it is, 180 grand, something like that. Thank you very much. What question answer? Minimum investment. Yeah, so that, and then there's a 2.5 year investment period left. So split the rest over 2.5 years, and that would be the average call. So you commit the capital, and we call it on demand, essentially.
If you have more questions, please raise your hand. No more questions?
With the investments in Australia, have you done a lot around the foreign comparative testing budgets that come through?
We see, so FCT is a US example. So just to give you some idea, so the US are about to spend $1.5 trillion on defence. We spend $38 billion in comparison, in US dollar terms. In the US, there's 275 organisations that can buy off tender. Now, that's my description. They're called OTA, Other Transaction Authorities. That's SEAL Team 6, all these sort of people. But Coast Guard has one, Marines have one, everyone has one. In Australia, there's 13 who can buy off tender. So, defence is hard if you concentrate in Australia. It's a small budget, not many purchases. The US, it's a bigger budget, lots more purchases. FCT is one of those, foreign comparative testing. The US will actually send scientists and engineers out to friendly markets, typically Five Eyes markets, Australia, and test your stuff here. What we do with an Australian business is we find the demand signal out of the US, we find the great entrepreneur here, we find the exquisite user in the US, and we'll find that user, that SEAL Team 6 or DevGru or Coast Guard is actually one of the best users, to be honest. We'll get it in their hands fast, and they will hopefully buy it. So it's not build it and they will come. We have a very, very I suppose, mature approach and nuanced approach to how we actually get capability into the hands of the US warfighter. Well, would we ever list on the US stock market? Hell yeah. I'm an investor. My job is to buy low, sell high. Right now, there is a US venture super cycle going on. We are seeing seed rounds in Australia, for example. A company in Australia will raise $5 million on a 25 mil valuation. In the US, they are raising 25 mil US on a $150 million valuation. That's the delta. So what we do is we find these companies in Australia, we get them to go to the US, we get them into the US revenue streams, and then into the multiple streams. So awesome arbitrage, great buy-side equation, get them into the US market, and happy days. I don't really care if I get my money from public or private markets, to be honest. My investors will be just as happy.
Hi, Stu. Over here. Grace Matthew, nice to see. What are the areas that you think Australian founders or businesses have sort of asymmetric opportunity? And are there any specific things that you look for? Like what's part of your, can you sort of share part of your due diligence process with us?
Yeah, so I mean, we're pretty evenly spread across the defence, across the 13 Caesars. We're pretty evenly spread, to be honest. So I wouldn't say there's a large concentration anywhere. We look at one of the. I have an unfortunate saying, and I appreciate there's a young person here, so forgive me. But most businesses die from suicide, not homicide. So we over-index on people, right? It's going to be the founders who blow this thing up, not anything else, to be quite blunt. So we still look for great teams, and we look for market, we look for access, we look for other bits and pieces. But the big thing if you're going to enter the US market is either a founder or a materially equity incentivized senior manager has to be resident in that market. If they're not willing to do that, that's the thing we look for the most. So, okay, we can see the bio, we can see the budget line, but are you going to be a tourist or are you going to participate in the world's largest market? So that's probably more that we look at there. We look at other things contractually and on the DD side, but we're also hemmed in that tax advantages sees us having to focus a bit more narrowly on Australian businesses of certain sizes, which is fair. It's called an early stage benefit, so they're earlier business. So we have our legal taxation DD, we have our own sovereign sort of thesis we imply on top of that. then we really do over-index on people and markets, to be honest.
Thank you.